things off on anybody else, and I don't expect them to, work around me. My job is to work for them, and if they're giving me the honor and the privilege of working for them, I intend to show them that they made the right decision literally every single time I talk to them. I'm doing anything for them. Period.
My name is Kevin McIntosh, and this is The Closing Table, where we talk to experts about their experience in real estate all across the country. Let's go. Welcome to The Closing Table. I am your host, Kevin McIntosh. Joining us on this very special episode, we will be speaking with real estate agent Jeremy Thieroff. How you doing, Jeremy?
I'm good, Kevin. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm fantastic, man. Thanks for being here, man. So I want to dig into your real estate experience and talk about your marketing and things of that nature. But before we get there, I have a quick icebreaker game called Fill in the Blank. Couple questions related to real estate. And I just need you to fill in the blanks, the incomplete parts, to make it a sentence that makes sense. You ready?
Yep.
Cool. First one. Compared to other markets, my market is blank.
Unpredictable. And what I mean by that is it's interesting because, there's a lot of listings that end up getting multiple offers, and then you have other ones that you think are going to be that way and don't. And it's interesting. And a lot of that has to do with Pittsburgh, the topography, the areas, things like that. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting response.
Yeah.
I would never blank before I buy a home.
Not do a sewer camera test. And I say that because I'm dealing with a lot of that stuff right now.
Really?
Yeah, I think out of the last 10 transactions, I'm ballparking, obviously. Out of the last 10 transactions that we've had, I've probably been dealing with that on 7 of them.
Oh, wow.
It's Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's infrastructure is a little bit older, and it's stuff that people don't think about. And a lot of people here who are, selling their homes, they've had them a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have an issue and not have it, visible on the surface, and there's something underneath. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people, because of multiple offer scenarios and stuff like that, they're waiving inspections and that sort of thing. And that's one thing I would never, ever other inspection things. Okay, sure. They're pretty manageable, but something like that, not a chance.
Oh my goodness. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for shedding light on that one. Last one. Blank is how you add value to your home.
Specifically, updating your kitchens and bathrooms is the best way to add value to your home. A lot of people will talk about, furnace, hot water tank, blah, blah, blah. That's why home warranties exist. But when people go into a place and they see a nice big kitchen, new counters, new cabinetry, bathrooms with your double vanities and double sink vanities and that sort of thing and whatever, and tile in the showers rather than those fiberglass inserts and that sort of thing. I mean, that's, a lot of stuff that people will put into it. You're not going to get the monetary return on investment. Yeah. Whereas that sort of stuff, that's what people look at. If you have a house that has a killer kitchen or like nice bathrooms and that sort of thing, they'll take on light fixtures, paint, flooring, whatever. But those are two things where, and you can ask any buyer that. I mean, they look through the photos on Zillow, Realtor, whatever else, and that's always what catches their eye, period.
Yeah.
At least that you can add. I mean, you can't add a bigger yard, right? But like those sorts of interior things, for sure.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Cool. Let's get into a little bit of the real story. All right. First of all, you, Jeremy, in about 60 seconds or left, don't you just paint a picture and tell us who is Jeremy, and tell us how often people mispronounce your last name.
all the time. All the time.
I just threw that last one in there.
Yeah,
but yeah, tell us who Jeremy is.
It's all the time, and I've done that. It's gotten to the point where I don't even correct people anymore. Like I'm just like, yeah, okay, whatever you want to call me, it's fine. I have an older couple that I have as clients that are going to be listing soon, and they actually call me Jeffrey, and I don't even correct them anymore. I'm like, okay,
Wow,
whatever.
wow. Oh,
I,
wow.
what I don't care what you call me as long as you're going to work with me. It's fine, you know. So, um, me in general. So I've been doing this. Next month will be 4 years that I've been a
Hey,
licensed agent.
congratulations.
Thank you. And it's something that I honestly I love it. It plays to my strengths. It plays to a lot of the things that I've learned over time at other jobs. Like I left a job for 14 years to get my license and do this. Um, and I did that at 42 years old. So really, I mean, if I had to, it's hard to summarize yourself, right? But I can say this, and I like to assume that other agents could probably say the same thing. But I think that every single one of my clients, and I've been fortunate enough to work now literally with, I'm not hundreds, but 150 people, give or take, in 4 years. Um, they always know that I'm honest with them, and they always know that I'm going to work around them and work as hard as possible for them. I
Mm,
don't pass things off on anybody else, and I don't expect them to, work around me. My job is to work for them. And if they're giving me the honor and the privilege of working for them, I intend to show them that they made the right decision literally every single time I talk to them. I'm doing anything for them,
there
period.
you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's a big deal. I mean, there's so many of us, and I'm very, very fortunate, and I realize how fortunate I am every day that people choose to work with me. Um, and if they're going to do that, I don't want them walking away from that with any regrets or any questions or anything, and not being able to say that, they know that I did everything I could for them. So
Right. Yeah, there you go. Putting in that extra effort, 110%. As I
always,
see it. Yeah,
always.
100%. All right. So why don't you just tell the people, you spoke on it briefly. Tell the people about your market. Describe your market for someone who's never been there. I've never been there. So describe geographically and then economically, any other notable
Sure.
landmarks, etc.
So Pittsburgh's really interesting because there's these hubs, more or less, right? A lot of people, when they're in this area, they either there's two things you find in the like more expensive hotter markets. First one is school district. So Fox Chapel, North Allegheny, all these bigger school districts and higher end school districts ranked.
Hmm.
They're going to have your higher prices, and a lot of people with families want to be there. Um, and then you have these, and that's always going to be the case. Like those places always have demand because people want the best for their kids, right? But then you have
Of
people that,
course.
yeah, but then you have the people that don't have kids or buying their first house or whatever. They're getting into home buying, and not necessarily using that as a jumping off point. And like
Hmm.
really, most people in their 20s, if you think you're buying your forever home, you're probably wrong, right? So invest in a good area. And there's areas like that, like Lawrenceville is a great example. Lawrenceville is a really good area, lots of walkability, lots of restaurants, lots of breweries, lots of businesses, lots of things to do. What we're finding now is some of these other areas, and Pittsburgh's a very old city. In the
Mm,
70s, the steel mills shut down. The unemployment rate was sky high. People couldn't wait
yeah.
to leave here.
Yeah.
And I graduated high school in the 90s, and I was probably the last wave, like the first wave of people that instead of leaving, decided to stay here and try and make something of it. So what you see now is a lot of these, communities that have more affordable housing. Like Pittsburgh is still very affordable compared to nationwide. It really is. We're not a
Okay.
huge city. We're not New York. We're not Chicago. We're not even Philadelphia, right? We're the other side of the state. We're one of those mid-tier cities, population under a million, but over 500,000. I
Hmm.
think that's how they define that. And you'll find these areas. So, like Lawrenceville is a great example. Back in the day, nobody wanted to live in Lawrenceville, and now there's new construction selling for $750,000 plus. People want to be around
Sheesh.
all these things. Well, you're near the Strip District, you're near Bloomfield, you're near everything, all these major areas. But what you're finding now is people want to be close to that, but they don't want to pay that sort of price. So then you have these surrounding areas where the housing is more affordable, and that's where people are starting to buy either, and I'm talking like Millville, Etna, Troy Hill, where I used to live. And when I lived in Troy Hill, it was a dump. I was living in an apartment above a pharmacy, right? But now there's flips going for like 450. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, you're paying 450 to live there and can take a short trip across the bridge instead of paying 750 and be right in the same spot.
There you go.
So you have these outlying areas where, and I live over in Bellevue. So Bellevue was a really good example because back until 2015, they were a dry town. They had prohibition rules, right? So businesses weren't going there because if you're a restaurant, you're losing out on alcohol sales and that sort of thing. So they changed the rules there. They changed the laws, and in 2015, they started to, sell certain businesses started to sell alcohol. Now, mind you, there's only five liquor
Really?
licenses. Yeah, there's only five liquor licenses over there. But you're going to get people there then that look at it as a destination, and the housing was really affordable. So,
Mm,
like, back in 2018, we bought a house dirt cheap, needed a ton of work, but we put the work into it, and now it's beautiful and like worth three times what we paid for it. So over here, you see it's a mix. It's a dogfight for people like trying to get into these really high end, good school district places. But then you see these other people that have a different sort of vision and they're going into these other areas that are kind of surrounding there. And those markets are growing too
mm,
because housing is scarce. It's scarce everywhere, right?
yeah. Yeah.
But they, now people are seeing these outlier communities that have been forgotten and they're buying things affordably and making them their own, whether it's Bellevue or Carnegie or Crafton or Coriopolis. I mean, I could name a bunch of places like that. And
Right.
it's an interesting market. And we say my market, right? But like my market is entirely within my MLS. If I can drive an hour, I mean, I've sold houses in Elwood City, PA, and Industry, PA, and five different counties.
Mm,
Um, it's it's interesting, and again, with Western Pennsylvania, you'll get you know these super expensive brand new townhouses, and then you'll get like you drive right over to Beaver County, and you've got like a ranch house on 5 acres, and it's cheaper than the townhouse in these other communities, right? So it's
man.
interesting. It's a really really broad, wide ranging market, and like
Mhm.
there's something really to suit anybody. So.
Yeah, yeah, nice. See, one thing I would say that I will compare to Pittsburgh that sounds very similar is Detroit. Like
Yeah.
when a lot of the auto company and the plants and stuff shut down, and a lot of people were just out without jobs, and you had people that either decided to leave or some that
Mhm.
decided to stay, and then you had affordable housing that had to be incorporated and things like that. So
Right.
obviously I'm pretty sure that two different situations had two different effects or whatever, but I see the similarities there when
Oh,
you
for sure.
mention that. So I get it. Yeah.
That's a really good parallel to draw. And it was a
Hmm.
lot of people. I think it was a lot of people who really like, even if they wanted to, couldn't leave. So they said, I'm here and I'm going to
Yeah.
make the best of it,
Yep.
And what we
Hmm.
see a lot coming up here, like, I use Bellevue as an example just because it's my home base, but our main business district isn't a bunch of corporate businesses. It's independently owned restaurants, breweries, cafes, things like that, tattoo shops, whatever. But like, a lot of people saw it as an opportunity because, I mean, imagine going into Chicago and trying to get a retail space and run a small business, right? Or New
Right.
York or
Right.
whatever. It's going to cost you a fortune. You can do that
Hmm.
here. People can actually like have a dream on a budget and realize that dream if they do it right. And that's really great. I mean, that's the beauty of being a big small town, right?
Big,
So
small. Yep. Yep.
yeah,
I definitely understand that. Yeah,
yeah,
good, man. Thanks for painting that picture, man. Letting us know what's going on in Pittsburgh, PA right now.
sure, of
But
course.
but turning the camera back on to you though, Jeremy. You
Uh-huh.
just made this big leap of faith.
Yeah.
You just decided that you want to go from working on a team that you've been on to
Mhm.
working solo now.
Yes.
Now let's talk about that. What inspired you to make this decision to go solo?
Um, it wasn't anything negative with my team. I'm again, I I have a lot of gratitude for a lot of things that I've been able to do in just the 4 years that I've been in this industry. I was on the Brian Riley team. Brian's a great agent, a great mentor. He taught me a lot. It gave
Hmm.
me a real opportunity. I mean, I joined him just a few months after getting my license, and he took a shot on me, and he didn't have to. Um, so I'm very grateful for that, and we did a lot of business together, and we did a great job. For me, being independent was more just it I have an independent streak anyways, right? Like
Mm,
it's great to work with people, but I wanted to more or less have my own vision for how I do things, whether that's marketing, whether that's events, whether that's how I get people to know my name, whether it's what I put on my social media, you know,
yeah.
and my interactions with clients. I mean, it's nice to have the backing of a team, but when you're a client and you have five different people reaching out to you, because of that, it can be a little confusing and it can be, I mean, it's there's a lot of questions as to like, why are you on a team? Can't you do this on your own?
Mm,
Never asked me that, but
that's a great question.
yeah, but it's a fair question, and
Yeah.
really my answer was always like, I love the support.
Right.
And it takes care of some of the back office things, the phone calls I don't want to make, the emails I don't want to send, a lot of the stuff there that I didn't want to do. But again, I've done a lot of business in a short amount of time, and I've learned very quickly. So my learning curve was a lot, you know, it was a lot faster than some agents in that same scenario.
Mm,
So there was no harm in trying to see what I could do on my own. And on my own already, I mean, again, it didn't really stop my process or anything like that. If anything, I'm still doing the same thing. And you know, again, one other way that I'm fortunate is that I've lived here my whole life, and I've known a lot of people,
there you
and I've
go.
made a lot of friends and acquaintances,
Hmm.
and those people know what I do, and they go to me, just based on that, not the company I work for, or the team that I'm on, or whatever. And again, there's a lot of us in this industry, but I've developed good relationships over here. So much of my business was referrals or what we call sphere of influence. It's the people that acquaintances, friends,
Hmm.
colleagues, people that a lot of people remembered me from the job I had for 14 years and I've worked with them. So if I'm generating that on my own, then I'm just going to run with it and see
Yeah.
how it goes. And fortunately, it's already gone really well. I, I think six things under contract right now as we speak. Two
Nice.
listings coming up. Four different buyers I have that whenever I can find them a house in this market will have listings to go up. So it's a nice full pipeline, and it only made sense to do it myself.
Man, that's a fantastic story, man. And it's inspiring also. I'm glad to hear that. A follow-up question that I had regarding that, you pretty much already answered. It was, how do you feel about, I mean, how do you feel your clients will benefit from you making this transition? And I mean, you already went into it, rather than them getting phone calls from three, four, five different people from maybe the same office. They're only going to speak with one direct person of contact, so that, it's less confusion and less miscommunication more than anything.
Right.
Also,
I
I
mean,
get that. Yeah.
yeah. There's a bottom line to it, and that's me.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, on top of that, too, I mean, it's like, for example, when we're done here, I have a client that's looking, and I have a client that's going to be listing soon, and I can go over there and show them those things ahead of time. It's just more hands-on, more direct, and people know that they can get a hold of me, they can talk to me, and I can generally answer whatever questions they have, and walk them through the process every step of the way. And I mean, you could work with somebody and be 99% cohesive and on, but at the same time, that 1% may come up, and then they're going, what's the difference here and who's right? And I just want to. I'm very hands on with my clients. I don't. I go to every inspection. I do a lot of things and fill in a lot of gaps that a lot of other agents just kind of don't, or
Yeah.
pass on to somebody else to do. And I have the time. I have the time. I have the energy. I don't have kids. So, I don't have that
Okay.
responsibility. I don't have to go like, I got to be at soccer at 6 o'clock. Like, no, I'll be here doing this. So,
Right. Man, the freedom that comes with that, man. Goodness gracious.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like everybody's like, don't you like, like, doesn't that ever bother you? And I'm like, Look, I go on vacation and I just have to worry about myself. So no, I'm
Ah.
good.
You can go out to eat, not have to take anybody, not have to pay
Right,
anybody. Oh my goodness.
right.
Look at you living the life.
It's not bad.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that. Okay, so you already talked about how you have a hand in your client's process when they're purchasing or selling and things like
Mhm,
that. So let's walk through the process of you helping a first time home buyer or
mhm,
a buyer in general, walking, getting them through the pre-approval process. Now,
mhm.
before I even say that, I know a
Yeah,
lot of real estate agents may cut off, say, hey, I'm not a, that's more of a mortgage loan originator question. I don't really do too much of that. And I
sure.
think that again also sets you apart. But I know you help your clients with that. So can you please walk us through that process?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I don't like, I could have somebody reach out to me, and I'll ask that question. Sometimes with some agents, that's the very first question. That's
Mm-hmm.
not going to be my first question. I kind of want to get a feel for them, and I want them to get a feel for me and understand things. I think that whenever that's your very first question, it's a fair question, but it can be a little repellent in the sense that they're like, are they, only worried about like the money part of things? And
Right.
and, and that matters. I mean, you're not going to get a house if you're not pre-approved, right? But like, I want to ask you a few other things first. Like, what are your goals? What are you looking for, etc. Now, when it comes to the pre-approval process, in doing so many transactions and learning what how this business works, you start to find people that you're comfortable with, right? And I'll refer people to those people. I have really good lenders that I work with, quite a few actually. Jessica Lyons over at Lionsgate has been wonderful to so many of my clients. Rusty Rokas, Justin Lazaro. I mean, I could name drop a whole bunch of people who do that, and you make those connections and you can send those people that way. But what the reason I like the lenders that I refer to people isn't because I mean, every mortgage broker is going to shop and find you the best rate and find you the best thing to fit your needs. But what I like about the ones that I work with, what I tell my clients is, listen, they'll tell you what you can do, they'll tell you what you can't do. And if what you can't do is something that you want to do, they'll tell you how to get there as quickly as
Mm,
possible. And that's a big deal because the pre-approval process, I mean, it's the whole home buying process can be a little bit scary if you've never done it before.
right.
And that's why I really like working with first-time home buyers. Some people don't. I love it. I love it because they're a blank canvas and you get to teach them and walk them through the process and prepare them. And the people that I work with on the lending side, I've had people who will call them and they'll say, well, we can't really do this now, but if you do X, Y, and Z in 3 or 4 months, we can turn around and we can make this happen. And then they'll guide them through that. And like,
Mm,
that's important. That's, I, I trust them to do that. So once they have that, they can feel comfortable with them and those lenders. People don't understand. It's not just them giving a pre-approval. There's so many other things that happen behind the scenes that they have to do for them. So they have to feel comfortable with them too. And if I didn't feel comfortable with them, I'm certainly not sending my clients there.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Good point. Good point. And I'm
yeah,
glad that you're there too, because as a real estate agent, I've heard so many other titles. Yeah, I'm a realtor, but I'm also a therapist. I'm also a concierge. I'm also a liaison. I'm also this and that, and you actually wear so many hats because, like you said, especially when you're dealing with someone who's purchasing a home for the first time, they
oh for
don't
sure.
know anything. They're literally looking at you as the person that's driving the boat. Like, please tell me any and everything that's going on, and for you to actually, okay, hey, not only do I have someone that I trust you can go to, but I'm also gonna, help you in that process. So I'm not just gonna send you over there. So,
Yeah,
I,
there.
yeah,
One of the things that people will regularly say is they'll go, "Well, I don't want to waste your time," and I say to them, "You're
mm,
never, ever, ever wasting my time, ever, because everything that we're doing, you can learn. Even if you're going into places that like I remember very early in my career, there was a couple I was working with, and they weren't even sure their lease wasn't up for a long time, and they were sure what they were going to be able to do. And I said, that's okay. We can still you can still find out what you can do when the time comes. And in the meantime, I'm more than happy to show you some places and then you can get a feel for the market and what your dollar will actually do for you. And I did that with them, and we ended up finding them the house that they're in right now. They were actually able to get out of their lease, and they found a perfect property for them, whatever. And they actually gave me one of the best compliments. And this isn't a knock on other agents. I never do that because we all have a tough job. But one of the best compliments they ever gave me is at the initial conversation before we jumped into that. And I told them I would do that. They said, "Thank you for talking to us like a person and not like a realtor." And I was like, okay, that's what I want to hear, and that's what I want to be perceived as, because
Right.
I'm helping them through this, but we are, like, we're all people, and we're all in this process together. And I feel like I've carried that over, and done a good job in that regard with my clients, making them know that I'm honest and I'm down to earth, and I'm not gonna dance around things with them, and we can work together, and we'll make things happen, whether it's today or whether it's 2 years from now. And sometimes it's
Right.
taken that long. So,
I can only imagine how that comment just like really reassured how the process that you actually put into place is actually working. And you know what I'm saying? So I can only imagine, man. Good
oh, for
job with
sure.
that.
And like I said, that was early in my career too.
Mm-hmm.
I met
Yep.
these guys at an open house, and they showed up late, and I'm like, yeah, walk through, turn off the lights behind you. I'm just getting my stuff together. And they ended up reaching out to me and calling me. We sat down, we had a few drinks, and I mean, it was genuine. And like, that's one of the things that's really important to me in this business, is being genuine about things. I don't want to sound like a
Yeah.
salesman. I'm not your salesman. I'm your partner in this,
Mm-hmm.
and that's
Yeah.
different.
Real estate agent can be a scary, intimidating person to a first time home buyer, for
Sure.
real. So good. I'm glad you made people feel comfortable in that way. Let's get
Yeah.
into a scenario
Okay.
that you had to deal with. I
Mhm.
can't wait for you to explain this, right? So there was a situation where you had some clients who are interested in a specific area.
Yeah.
So after, and you correct me if I'm wrong in the story. So after looking for homes for a little while, you didn't have any good luck, but I believe your team came up with a suggestion for you to send letters to homes in that areas, to homeowners in that area, to
Yeah.
see if they were interested in listing by any chance.
Mhm.
Through the grapevine, you end up landing on someone. I guess
Mhm.
someone referred you to someone, and
Mhm.
then that seller was interested, but the previous agent they worked with basically mispriced their home. So you basically bridged that gap
Yeah.
and got the buyer the home and the seller the right price for the home. Can you
Yes.
talk about that process? How did the idea of sending those letters come out? Let's get into it.
Full credit goes to Brian on the idea for the letters. That
Okay.
was Brian's idea. I can't take any credit for that. Um, we were kind of brainstorming, and this is, again, this is why it was beneficial to be on a team, because you learn things from people who have been doing it longer than you, right? And he said, "Hey, do you have any clients that maybe we could do a letter campaign for?" And I said, "Yeah, I thought of them immediately. This young couple buying their first house, first time home buyers, right? Met them at an open house. They didn't know me, but we felt pretty comfortable with each other right away."
Hmm.
And we sent out these letters. It was in Bellevue, my home area now. And by chance, so I know a lot of people in Bellevue. I'm very involved in certain community things over there and whatever else. I mean, I know a lot of people, and somebody wrote me and they're like, "Hey, we got one of your letters," because you do a broad search, right? You
Right.
put in the parameters like this area, this amount of bedrooms, this amount of bathrooms, whatever they're looking for. And one of the parameters was off just a hair, but they're like, our neighbor a couple doors down was looking to sell her place, and so I said, great. And I reached out to her and we connected. She's a wonderful lady. I think she lives in Wyoming now.
Hmm.
She was getting ready to do that, and she'd had that house for a while. And I said, can we just talk? I have somebody that would definitely be interested. Now, here's the thing: you have to sell somebody, not sell somebody, but you have to, like, basically make them understand, like, not just the worth of their house, but the benefit of, like, doing it off market versus doing it on market. Because this is always, like, there's certain things that are a gamble involved in real estate. And I don't mean to be long-winded, but, like, they can put it on market and get multiple offers, right? Or they
Hmm.
could put it on market and then it just sits there. And when it's just sitting there and you have to start doing price reductions and things like that, you get to the inspection phase and the buyer thinks they're doing you a favor, not you doing them a favor by choosing them in a multiple offer scenario. Then you can get into some stuff post inspection. And, so I talked to her, the original agent. I don't know his name and I wouldn't say it anyways, right? But like, I said, what were you thinking about listing this place for? And she said a number. She's like, well, I talked to my friend who's an agent, and she said a number that was like obscenely low for the area and for the condition of the house. It's a nice big house, and I
Hmm.
mean, it needed some updates, but so what? As a buyer, you're willing to take that on usually. And I had to ask her, and I don't want this to come off as arrogant, but I had to ask her, like, does he do this part time? And she's like, no, this is a full time thing. And I'm like, listen, he's understating the value of your house. I said, we could list it this at least and get, I'm a big proponent of like underlisting a little bit to generate more interest. And then, when you, in the hopes of being in a multiple offer scenarios, because then in the multiple offer scenario, you have options, right?
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yes. And you want the biggest and best pool of buyers that you can get. And I said, but I do have this couple, so let me see if they like the place. And I connected them and they came in and they checked it out. And I didn't know if they'd like it or not. And literally by the end, they were like, we love it. I'm like, okay. So I listed a quoted price with the understanding that my quote was at least $50,000 above the other agent's quote. They went above that to get it off market. So if you want it off market and you don't want to compete, you better, incentivize people to do that for you. And so they went above that. We went under contract for 75 more than the other agent had quoted from the get-go. And one of the nice things with that too is there are working with other agents most of the time is a good experience. You're both trying to get to the same place. You're both coming from a place of logic, but that's not 100% of the time. There I have had some really tough scenarios with other agents, whether that was their fault or my fault, whatever.
Right.
I was the only agent on the deal, so I could, work with both sides to reach agreement on certain things, whether that was post inspection, whatever. And, at the end of the day, I was proven right because it appraised for the value that we went under contract for. Now imagine if she had listed that, she may have ended up close to that, but I don't know that it would have appraised at that point when you're starting so low. You know what I mean? The bank's going to look at that and go, you listed at 125, but this is 200. It can't be worth that, right? I'm just spitting out random numbers.
Right. Right.
But if you're at that and you're doing that, I mean, I nailed the value on the dot. And those guys are over there now, and I bump into them all the time, and they're super happy. And months later, actually, the seller texted me from Wyoming, I think. Don't quote me on that, but she texted me just to say like, "Hey, I hope you're doing well, and thank you again." And that was cool.
Look
And
at
then
that.
they were doing the people on that street are really tight knit group, and they were having a going away party for her, and I got to meet some of the people, and I knew a couple of the other people that lived on the street already too. But then I met these other people, and the funny thing is, I mentioned that today I'm taking a client to see a listing that I have coming up. That listing, I met those people at her going away party. So,
Look at that.
like,
Oh
circle of life, right?
man. Love it, man. It just
Yeah,
goes to show how your character and your, just what's in you, your integrity, it'll just take you a long way. And you sticking with certain people in certain situations and seeing it all the way through. You
yeah.
just had both parties, not even just both parties, like those two parties happy, so happy that you even ended up getting somebody else potentially, man. Just like you said, the circle of life.
Right. And
Beautiful.
I mean, like, if I've learned anything in this business, right, it's if you're in, if you do this business right, you can still be well compensated, right? And there are some
Mm,
people that, because it's a commission based job and they don't have a ton of business, you start to panic and you start to force things and you start to like,
for sure.
you're looking at your bank account, right? And I don't let that dictate what I do. My clients, I'm say to them all the time, like whether it's again tomorrow or 2 years, I'll ultimately get paid. It'll be fine. It'll be worth my time to do that work. And I've had clients that I've worked with who were deciding between two properties, and I said, well, you should go with the other one that's more affordable. Now I get paid less doing that, right? Because of
Mm-hmm.
the commission rate. But at the end of the day, I'm getting them into a place that makes sense for them. They're going to tell their friends, they're
Right.
going to tell their family, and when they're ready to sell or buy their next place, they're going to go back to me too. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think in general people don't think about, you know, we're so worried about 5 days from now, we don't think about 5 years from now. And if you do
Mm.
this right, you're laying a groundwork to where, now I don't have to do these cold calls that a lot of agents do where you're like, hey, thinking about buying your house? Like, click, hang up. I don't have to do that. I don't want to do that. I can do the business that I'm doing based on, my interactions with other people. And like I said, I'm very referral based, and I'm only 4 years into this. I'm super lucky that way. But I also think that, like, because I do things the way I do, it goes to show that you can be honest and not worry about your own bottom line and create a better bottom line in doing so. You know.
Man, you're speaking on it right now, and that right there alone makes a difference between an average agent and a good agent. Something that you spoke on in great lengths on your social media profile. You made
Mhm.
some great arguments too that I don't think anyone could actually debate. But could you briefly, for our platform, explain the difference between an average agent and a good agent?
Sure. I was reluctant to make that post only because, again, you don't want to come off as like arrogant, but this is the way that I would view it, regardless of whether I was in this industry or not, right? Like, I want an average agent. I hear stories about people who will show up with a client, open the door, right? Let them walk through by themselves, and then they come back and they go, what do you think? Do you want to make an offer? What are you doing? Right? Walk through the door, show them the things that are
Right.
actually like, and don't show them just the things that are great. If I walk through a house and somebody's like, look at this is beautiful, this is blah, 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 it seems kind of phony to me, right? Like, I look at houses, and a lot of my clients would say this. I'm the first thing I'm doing is pointing out the things that they need to consider, or the things that they may run into as an issue later. I'll go like, well, you need to look up at the rafters and see if there's any potential mold. You need to, is there a French drain system? Does it have this? How old is the roof? Whatever. A good agent is going to walk through a place with you. A good agent is always going to make time for you. And, I don't like the idea of being on call, but, like, I understand, by being in this field and in this industry, I'm going to have to work around your schedule. I give up a lot of evenings and weekends when most people are doing things.
Yeah.
And okay, so what, right? Like, I'll make up for it later and I'll make my time. A good agent is going to explain the lending process to you and send you to a good lender. A good agent is going to tell you, what to expect with the inspection process. And they're also going to have good inspection companies that they can refer to you. They're going to tell you, why you need to consider certain things when you're putting together an offer in a multiple offer scenario. I've been, I worked with other agents before I had my license where, we got an inspection report and we're like, what is this? And they're like, decide what you want to ask for. I walk through an inspection report with my clients talking about whatever. I'm at the inspection so that if something comes up and they point it out, I go, okay, that's the problem. How does somebody take care of that? What does that
Right.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll get questions answered. I mean, I was just in a deal with an agent that couldn't bother to text me, or like text me back, or call me as an agent, the most basic things. And I'm like, what do you do for your clients? If you're doing that with me and I'm the other side of the deal, who's going to help you get paid? I mean, when you said earlier, people talk about this and they're like, well, I'm a therapist, I'm a concierge, and whatever, I'm a liaison. You're not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have to help people understand their expectations. I have to be honest with them. And a lot of agents will avoid hard conversations because they're difficult. Well, if I'm willing to have a hard conversation with you, then you can trust me, and that I'm going to be honest with you, even if you don't like it, and even if I don't like it. I don't want to have difficult conversations. A good agent will do that with you. An average
Mm-hmm.
agent will just kind of go, "What do you want to do?" Right? Um, I mean, there's things that you learn, and really, at the end of the day, the difference between The basic bottom line difference between a good agent and an average agent is a good agent is going to be there every step of the way through the process, have patience with you, explain it to you. Customer service is the main thing, period. Period. And that's any job. I mean, you go to a restaurant, right? And like you're going to tip somebody better who's a great server.
Facts.
You want to and like you want a doctor, like and the other end of the spectrum, you go to a doctor, and if a doctor walks in the room, tells you the basic things, and walks out, and all you see is nurses, do you feel comfortable? But then you have a doctor that'll sit down and explain it to you, and not just that, but ask you how you feel and what your
Mhm.
concerns are. That's different, right? And we have to all treat it that way. If you don't treat it that way, then you're not giving your client the best that you can.
Great
Period.
analogies. Great analogy. Obviously, as someone who's been a real estate professional for only 4 years now, you're speaking with a lot of wisdom and experience. I mean, and I'm hearing a
Thank you.
lot of similarities of what you're saying to agents that I've spoken to who's been doing this 20, 30 years too, man. So I think you're headed in the right direction for sure, for sure. You stay
Thank
grounded
you.
with that, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. One of the things I had to learn is, this can be a very emotional job because you always want to do the best. You always want to win. You always want to get everybody what they want. But like,
Mhm.
I mean, at the end of the day, I want my main thing is I want to be able to walk away from every transaction knowing that I did the best that I could for my clients, and they know the same thing and can say that honestly. You know,
There you go.
yeah.
That's a fact. I want you to speak on your goals going forward. Now that you just entered this new chapter in your life, being a solo real estate agent representing your own team, can you
Mhm.
just talk about the goals that you have set forth for your next chapter?
My goals haven't changed. My goals are still so my goals aren't there's a lot of agents who, they'll say I want to do X amount of transactions per year, right?
Okay.
And it's a baseline number, and there's goal setting for everybody in every job every year, right? And I'm not being dismissive of that, but my goal isn't necessarily to do X number of transactions. My goal is to continue to grow my base on a referral and sphere of influence thing so that I don't have to do some of the other things that I don't like as an agent and I don't think people like as an agent. I don't want to get a phone call from somebody going like, "Hey, ever thought about selling your house?" You know what I mean? Um, I want to continue to grow my business that way and get my name out there more. The biggest difference now is, then we were growing a team name and the team is pretty well known. And really now I'm just trying to grow my own name, my own way, with the way I market things and do things. And I want to be able to continue. I don't ever my goals aren't what I want to do necessarily. My biggest goal isn't what I want to do, it's what I don't want to do. I don't ever want to have clients walk away saying that I was more concerned with my bottom line than theirs. That's my
Mm-hmm.
biggest goal. I take a lot of ethics into this. I say the thing all the time where it was like punk rock saved my life, right? Like I grew up on punk rock and like DIY music and whatever. That was my background. I was in bands, I did the whole thing. And that was very much like a community where you looked out for people no matter who they were, right? And I take a lot of pride in the sense that I'm going to work just as hard for somebody buying a $75,000 house as a $750,000 house, and my reward for that will exist no matter what, as long as I stay true to those ethics. That's my goal. I want to grow my business, but I want to grow it in an ethical and proper manner, and I want people to walk away from it knowing that I did right by them. That's my number one goal. Now, besides that, I'd like to do 100 transactions this year, but like,
There it
am I going to
is.
cry if I don't? No, And I don't know if I could even handle that. But like, I mean, I do a large amount of business in a short amount of time, and I want to continue that. I don't need to. I don't know. I don't need numbers like that. I need people. I need to know in my heart that what I'm doing is beneficial to people and it mattered to them. All my jobs before this, my 14 years, it was as a therapy assistant in a chiropractic office. I was a nutrition specialist that helped people lose weight and get healthier. I was a wedding officiant. I've done over 125 weddings for people, right? So I look at that
Nice.
and I'm like, every single step of what I was doing, the thing I loved most about whatever I've done for a long time was I was helping people, right? So my goal
True.
now all the time is to genuinely be there, whether it's as a realtor or a part-time therapist doing that or whatever, just knowing that like I did the best I could for everybody. That's my goal. Period.
Yeah.
Flat out.
Yes, indeed. Well said, man. Scholar and a gentleman right there. What I got from that is quality over quantity all day, every day, man. I appreciate you dropping those isms right here, Jeremy. Before we get out of here, if you have any last words and or want to tell the people how to reach out to you, please do so now.
Sure. So people can reach out to me. I actually just got my own website. It's buyandsellwithjeremy.com. They can always call me or text me 412-559-6825 or email me at jeremy@buyandsellwithjeremy.com. Jeremy. I should probably clarify that because people
Yeah.
mess that up too. Yeah, I mean, that's and final words. I'm again like thank you for having me. That it's always good to sit down and talk about this, and
Yeah, man.
you know, um, I love what I do, and really I'm just grateful. And more than anything else, to any of my previous clients who might sit down and watch this, I just want them to know how much it's meant to me for them to trust me with that. And I hope that, they trust me to help the people they care about down the road too. That's it.
There it is. There it is. Man, well said, Jeremy. Thank you again for taking time to pull up a seat to the closing table. We got to speak to our YouTube audience watching right now. Don't you click on that recommended video. If you got this far, hit the like button for us. Also, hit the share button and subscribe to our channel. And if you are listening on Apple, Spotify, or any other podcast platforms, please do the same. Give us a like, 5-star rating, and subscribe for our latest content. Hey, Jeremy, before we get out of here, we always like to leave the audience thinking. Got a
Okay.
question for our audience. How did you start the process of buying a home? Did you reach out to a realtor? Did you go on Google? Family member? Did you go directly to a lender, open house, whatever? Leave your comments below. Besides that, we'll talk to you next time.